This episode is dedicated to Gary Graham, who we recently lost this month. He played Vulcan Ambassador Soval on Star Trek Enterprise, as well as many other various roles throughout Star Trek, including Voyager, as well as the Alien Nation TV series. Thank you, Gary, for all that you've done for the Trek world and beyond.
Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive: to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by podcast, which focuses on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek, by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm David Burns.
I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
In this episode, we continue our discussion on what we like to call Starter Trek, a curated episode list for first-time viewers. This spoiler-free list focuses on the top 10 episodes from each season for people like our producer Jeff as a great place to start. With Starter Treks, we simplify the menu with choice cuts of Prime Trek that gives people a taste of each season. After listening to this episode, you can find the course we're plotting for you with our list in the description below. But before we begin, let's listen to what our producer Jeff has to say about some of the episodes we chose from Season 1.
Guys, ever since you've known me, you knew I was a casual Star Trek fan. I was fond of the original series and I liked the movies, but that's pretty much where my Star Trek fandom ended. Last year, however, you showed me that the world of Star Trek continues to be incredible with shows like Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, and I simply wanted more. I never thought I'd have enough time to invest in it, but with your curated list, these starter treks as you call them, I feel like I'm going to warp through all 7 seasons of The Next Generation in no time. I love these characters, I absolutely love this cast, and I'm excited to see where their adventure takes them. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Please keep plotting the course, because I, for one, plan to stay engaged.
Thanks for that, Jeff. And for you listeners, if you would like to comment or add what you think are the top 10, please do so because we would love to hear from you. Scott, what are we discussing today?
We're diving into Season 2. And we're going to notice that the seasons are getting more and more difficult to find out what are those favorites, what are the top 10 that somebody who's coming in fresh or somebody who's coming back to it really needs to watch. So it's an interesting kind of factor that we're taking into account with this top 10.
Yeah, yep. Things are beginning to change for the better, I might add. It's getting harder to choose those top 10. And the biggest one for me, Riker has his beard.
Yeah,
finally.
Yeah, there were a lot of changes, a lot of alterations to the show for this season. You know, some of the mistakes from season 1 they corrected. Others, maybe not so much, not quite yet.
Yep, almost there.
Yeah, they're almost there. Well, this season was hugely affected by the writer's strike of 1988. We talked a little bit about that last season. It ran from March to August of that year, and it's really blamed in the drop of quality for this season, which I don't agree. I think the quality actually went up in the writing. But it delayed the start of the season by about 2 months, and it resulted in a shorter season. They lost 4 episodes, dropping the run amount down to 22 episodes. And there were a lot of behind-the-scenes problems there, too, going on. Gene Roddenberry was still in hands-on control of the series, and he promoted one of his writers, Maurice Hurley, who wrote Heart of Glory and Hide and Q, to the showrunner, which was, if in hindsight, probably a mistake because he alienated a lot of the writers that were working this season, and many of them quit, like Tracy Torme, who was a huge pull for the series, and because of all the rewrites that Hurley did, he walked out. And he also talked Roddenberry into firing Gates McFadden, which I think we'll all agree was a big mistake.
Huge.
Yes,
Huge.
big mistake.
Yeah, he had there were a lot of behind the scenes animosity between the two. Um, and he created the character of Dr. Pulaski, of course, to replace him. Plus, there were other arguments. Roddenberry and another writer that he brought in from the original series, David Gerald, were also fighting behind the scenes too. Gerald had written a script for the season called Blood and Fire. It was a big one. It was going to be a really big story for the season that Paramount wanted, specifically asked for this. It was commissioned to be written by him, but because Roddenberry, there were a lot of things going on. And Roddenberry's lawyer didn't like the script, so he convinced Roddenberry to drop the script, and so Gerald left. It wasn't until the end of the season when Hurley and Roddenberry left that things started to smooth out, and a lot of the mistakes that were made were corrected.
Yeah, you can see that too with season 3 coming up, which obviously we're going to talk later. But yeah, you definitely can see those things are starting to get smoothed over.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get diving into these episodes. We are going to be talking about them in order as they were aired on television. So to get us started, we are going to be talking about our first pick. Wayne, what is it?
Well, the first pick is the season premiere, and that is The Child, which the original script was written by Jaron Summers and John Pobble, and this script was rewritten for The Next Generation by Maurice Hurley and directed by Rob Bowman. The Enterprise is preparing to transport plague specimens with the hope of devising a cure to an epidemic on Rochellus. Deanna Troi discovers that she is inexplicably pregnant, and when she gives birth to what appears to be a normal Betazed boy just a few days later, Picard and the others deal with specimens growing out of control and believe that the two strange occurrences have to be connected. Now, this is an odd script. There's a lot of backstory for this one, but I'm going to kind of summarize it really quick. Because of the strike, there was a real quick rush to get scripts, and there wasn't enough time to write all these scripts in such a short time. So this script was actually pulled from Paramount vaults because it was originally written back in 1977 for a series that was planned called Star Trek Phase 2. This was going to be a new series featuring the original crew on their second 5-year mission. All the original cast was coming back except for Leonard Nimoy, and they had new characters coming in, such as the character Ilea and new First Officer Decker. The two events led to the cancellation of that series. Paramount was planning a new network, and they just decided not to do it. And then also Star Wars, which was a big thing, which made Paramount realize they didn't want a new TV series. They wanted a movie. But a lot of people don't realize how close this series got to being made. All the scripts were written. Costumes were made. Casting was done. Directors were set. Sets were built. Many of those sets were actually reused for The Next Generation. We see a lot of them from Phase 2 being used. And The Child was going to be the 5th episode of that series. And it took very little rewrite. The originally script had Ilea having the child and the problems coming from that. Maurice Hurley rewrote it so that it's Troi. And other than that, it's basically the same. This episode also introduced Guinan, Catherine Pulaski. It's got a beautiful visual effects opening. I love that opening with an incredible score by Dennis McCarthy. And it introduced a new set, 10 Forward. The production was allowed to have one large permanent set new to the studio each year, and this was the one that was built.
Yeah, it's quite a way to start a season, wouldn't you agree? Getting one of the main characters pregnant right away, and it's like, okay, what's going on with this? Where are we going? And then I would absolutely love the reaction that Riker gave when they were in the meeting room when he found out for the first time that she was pregnant. I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, there's definitely some weirdness here, and I mean, it's one that when you look around, it's on a lot of top 10 worst episodes, and when we're going through this list, I mean, in my opinion, there's some problematic things here as far as the nature of how she winds up with this child and the trauma of having to kind of put her through that. But the reasons I think it's important, it it finally gives Troy a spotlight episode.
Yeah.
And
It does.
knowing what happens with her character way off into the future into more recently released series, it's kind of an interesting lens to look at, one of her first experiences with family and with motherhood. I think it's also just useful to see this episode because of the introduction of Guinan, who is one of my favorite characters in Star Trek, and Dr. Pulaski, who is not one of my favorite characters in Star Trek.
Not even close.
But it can be kind of jarring, to say the least, to jump right in and not know, context of like who are these people and when did they come in, especially with Dr. Pulaski.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's got to do with the problems that were said behind the scenes. I like this episode. I agree it's probably not the best way to open the season, but it's still a good episode. And you mentioned that, they've corrected one of the very first mistakes that I felt was the problem during the first season, and that's starting to spotlight each one of the characters, give them an episode to shine. And Troy hardly had anything to do during the first season, and it was nice to see an episode with her being the star of the story.
Yeah. This is, I know Marina Sirtis does not like this episode. She says this is her least favorite episode of the entire series. But there's a lot of stuff going on in this one that's why we have to pick this one, because you're right. If this was not in the top 10 and we were telling people, don't watch this one, they're going to be lost.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much going on. You've got to watch this episode. I mean, Geordi LaForge is promoted. We learned that in this episode.
Yep.
This is the first time that we see Worf with his baldric. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this episode that, for a first-time watcher, they need to see this stuff being introduced for sure.
And you're right. That also brings up a few other things. There are some other changes too. Worf is now head of security.
Yep.
With his yellow uniform. We have Geordi. He's now been moved to chief engineer. He's got his yellow uniform now. There's a lot of changes, and it would be very jarring if you just suddenly walk and everybody's wearing different uniforms and have different positions. This is a good episode to start with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting reactions to all these introductions and changes, right? Reactions from the crew and how they're kind of responding to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. All right. Well, let's go on to our second pick. Scott?
Yeah, this one's a little bit more fun with Elementary Dear Data. Data and Geordi share a holodeck adventure as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, only to find that the mysteries aren't enough of a challenge. But when the holodeck creates a program to match their wits, they get much more than they bargained for. I can't say too much more.
No.
But there is an introduction of a character that just has a fascinating background that has to do with the holodeck. We didn't quite talk about the big goodbye in the last top 10.
Right.
This one is a great way to feature the holodeck, not only in terms of how people use it, but the capabilities of that holodeck and kind of the implications of that. Specifically things like the safety protocols that they have to put in place. So what if you're on a holodeck and somebody shoots you? Things like that. I thought it was a fascinating dive into Data and Geordi. It's a great look at their friendship, I think, and their relationship. How Geordi is helping him in his progression, but how Data is genuinely one of Geordi's best friends. That has a lot of implications in the future.
Yeah, in watching this series, this is like one of many holodeck episodes that you're going to see over the series. But, you hit on a key point that I definitely wanted to make sure, everybody was aware of and talk about, and that's Geordi and Data's friendship. We've already started seeing that blossom some, in season 1, but this one really focuses on that. And you can see that how much they are connecting to one another. And again, Brent Spiner is just brilliant in his role.
Yes, he is. And a funny fact about this, the producers actually got in trouble for this episode. They didn't realize that Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle was trademarked. And Paramount kind of had to scold them and said, don't do it again. So this is why we don't see them go back to the Sherlock Holmes world for a while. They do eventually. We will get to that eventually. But that's the reason why we don't see it, because it could have been a yearly thing. But no, not until some behind the scenes legal problems were smoothed over.
Yeah, that's a big oops.
Yeah.
And along those lines, there's actually an interesting parallel that I found between why Sir Arthur Conan Doyle made a certain choice with the Sherlock Holmes series that has kind of a parallel to this episode. But I can't talk about that without spoiling it. So
no
moving on.
spoilers. No spoilers. One of the scenes that I really loved of this, and it's not giving away anything, is when Data, they went into the holodeck for them, to relax and just solve a mystery, and Data just quickly solved it with no problems, and Geordi basically just threw his hands up. I'm done, in program, and get ready to walk out, and Data's like, what's wrong? And then Geordi had to explain to him, look, we're here to relax, enjoy this, actually solve the mystery. You're not doing that,
Yeah.
And of course, this is eventually what leads them to get into trouble with the holodeck. But hey, I really like that. That was a cool scene.
Yes, it is.
There is also kind of a minor detail you're going to see with kind of the juxtaposition of Geordi and Data's friendship and Dr. Pulaski and Data's relationship. And, how Geordi regards him as, a life form, a sentient life form, a friend, and a person like anybody else. But Dr. Pulaski has a very kind of almost a one-dimensional kind of view of Data, which is very frustrating. And I know that's the way the character was written, but wow.
Data.
So, that mispronunciation just...
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm sure there had to be a take where Brent was like, it's Data. It's Data, get it right.
Yeah, that just irked me when I heard it again. I'm like, oh, Pulaski.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. So our third pick is the Schizoid Man. To know him is to love him is to know him. Dr. Ira Graves is a brilliant scientist living with his assistant working on research, very important to the Federation. Picard and the Enterprise are sent to Dr. Graves at the request of an urgent matter. However, before they can arrive, another urgent matter occurs, forcing Picard to make a decision to send a landing party to meet with Dr. Graves' needs, while the rest of the crew go to help a ship desperately in need of help. It is discovered that Dr. Graves is dying, but before he expires, manages to put his consciousness into Data, which causes disturbing consequences. This episode here, guys, continues to prove Brent Spiner's brilliance.
Yeah,
he
range.
Flexes his acting muscles in this episode beyond more than we have seen, and we have seen quite a bit of him doing this. But this episode, wow, does it really shine. But another actor I would like to point out is William Morgan Shepard, who we get a little bit of him in this episode as Dr. Graves before he expires. But many of them are going to know a couple years later he'll be in Star Trek Undiscovered Country as a different character. And of course, Wayne, we would know him from Gettysburg. He was in that as well. And not to mention numerous other shows, movies, and stuff that Mr. Shepard was in.
Including Doctor Who.
And there you go, including Doctor Who.
And the new Star Trek movie, the Chris Pine.
Yes, that's right. Just the little amount of time that Shepard is on this episode just was brilliant and set forth what we're going to see in Data. It was just a great performance on his part, and Brent Spiner just picked it up right where he left off and truly shined in this episode.
Definitely.
Yep. You can see how he does a great job of emulating Shepard's performance. Right? And following that lead. And we're going to get a lot more of that range from Brent Spiner in this series, and we're the better for it. It's fantastic. Yeah,
absolutely. I know one of the things I found interesting too was when they were running that test on Data. We get to see images of Tasha Yar, which we're going to get to see that again later, another episode we're going to talk about. But Dexter Remick and Project Genesis are displayed during that test, if you guys didn't pick that up. But I thought that was really neat. There's a scene in here where Troy and Geordi are invited to Data's room. If you guys know what scene I'm talking about towards the beginning. They go to his quarters, and when they enter, they see what is on his face. Well, apparently, Marina Sirtis was laughing so hard at the end of the scene that she had to leave. So when she leaves in that scene, that was really Marina Sirtis having to leave because she was laughing so hard that she couldn't control it. So the good thing is Brent Spiner and LeVar Burton just kept it rolling. They never broke character, allowing the scene that we see to make it into the episode. I thought that's incredible.
That's fantastic.
It's a great scene.
I want to watch that again.
Yeah. Just knowing that makes you appreciate that much more, and the professionalism of those actors that they were able to just keep rolling and not break. That
Yeah.
just shows their talent for sure.
Yeah. Well, and just that it's that infusion of comedy that's not meant to be like, hey, the jokes are coming.
Right.
Like Star Trek does a great job of that, specifically with Next Generation. And,
Mhm.
you know, um, knowing that they were able to get through that and then keep that footage is great. That's a
It
great
really
behind the
is.
scenes.
Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um,
We,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say we also get Susie Plaxton,
Mhm.
uh, one of
Yeah.
my favorite character actors in this series. We'll talk about it a little bit later. In this role, she's Lieutenant Selar,
Yep.
Vulcan doctor. Um, Comes back in this series and several other series, and I think just does a great job all over.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting because it's a great character. I'm surprised they never brought this character back. They did it in a lot of books and comics and stuff, but in the series, this is the only time we ever see her, and it would have been interesting for her to be around the sick bay, maybe another character with Dr. Crusher.
Yeah. It's a shame they didn't continue that way. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you on that. Another thing I thought that was kind of creepy in this episode was the tune that Graves always whistled, "If I Only Had a Brain,"
Oh yeah,
and how
yeah,
that's
it was.
used when Data whistles it, basically signaling what had happened. I love that. I thought that, ooh, man, that's kind of creepy, but yet really cool at the same time.
Yeah, it reminds me of Denzel Washington's Fallen, with
Yeah.
Time Is on Our Side.
Yeah.
Just a great way to just add a little bit more creepiness in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it was. Well, good deal. Well, before we continue on, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the next episode. All right, well, welcome back. Let's talk about our fourth episode, Wayne.
And that will be A Matter of Honor, which is written by Wanda Height, Gregory Amos, and Burton Armus, directed by Rob Bowman again. And this, we finally get the Klingons again on the Next Generation. An officer exchange program allows Commander Riker the chance to serve on a Klingon ship under the command of Captain Kargan. When the Klingon crew find a microorganism eating away at their hull, Kargan believes it to be a new Federation weapon and put Riker on the wrong side of a potential Klingon Starfleet conflict. Now, this is a much loved episode. I think pretty much everybody will say this is one of the better episodes of season 2.
Yeah.
It is. It's a good episode, and this is the second time we really see the Klingons spotlighted on the series. We had one last season, and now we have this one. But this is the first time that we see the Klingon bird of prey, the model, actually being used on Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was used last in Star Trek V, but now we get to see it on the show, and we'll see it a lot more. But here, I want to point out one guest star here that made everybody not know who this is. Captain Kargan. He was played by actor Christopher Collins. That's actually a different name. He normally goes by the name Chris Latta. He was the voice of Starscream and Cobra Commander on Transformers and G.I. Joe. Very different role, seeing him not only live action, but under heavy makeup. And there's another guest star too, Brian Thompson. He played the first officer, Clag. He was the one that introduced Riker to Gach.
Gach.
Yep.
He goes on. He appears on Star Trek quite a few more times. He was on twice on Deep Space Nine, 3 episodes of Enterprise, and then he played Klingon again on Star Trek Generations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's also in 1986's Cobra.
Yes,
the Night's
he
Last.
That's right.
yes.
Yeah. The scene when Riker's got all the food there at 10 Forward, eating it. Oh my gosh, that was just disgusting. And he was just enjoying himself. Here we go.
Although
this-
credit to food services for that. Like,
Absolutely.
to be able to make that, I'm sure there's more than one take. Like, not
Oh
easy.
gosh, yeah.
Oh. So many good scenes in this with Jonathan Frakes as Commander Riker, just proving what a badass Commander Riker is and why we love him so much as a character. But the fact that he took on that role was very happy. When with the scene between him and Picard when they're doing the at the phaser range, which is the first time we've ever seen that, by the way.
Yeah.
it was neat when Picard was telling him what was going on and that they were doing an exchange. And Picard obviously was leaning towards, trying to talk Riker into taking it. But Riker knew what was going on. That's why he had that big smile on his face. It's like, yeah. And who do you have in mind? But no, when he went over to the ship and just, proved himself to the Klingons that he deserved to be there, man, Jonathan Frakes is just awesome.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
And you mentioned the phaser range. It's actually one of my favorite sets, even though there's not much set to it, right?
Right.
It's a giant circle with a bunch of darkness all around. It's just little blinking lights you have to shoot at the right time. There's an episode where they use that again with Worf and Guinan, and they have a great conversation in that. Later. But it's a great set.
Yep. What I find interesting too is Ensign Minden. You know who I'm talking about? Who shows up when Wesley mistakes him?
Yes.
That's the same actor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's an uncomfortable exchange, right?
Yeah. It was a very interesting exchange, which is kind of funny that they did that.
The same actor from the first, back in the first season?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, played by John Putch, I believe. I don't know if it's pronouncing his last name correctly, but same actor.
Yeah.
And there's a great effect there, that costume.
Yeah.
Right? Where every breath has like a little bit of dry ice or some kind of smoke coming off it. I love that.
It's a good concept, a good alien. We don't see too much of it, but I like that. I like the idea that they have to accommodate for different atmospheres.
Yep. All right, well, let's go on with our fifth pick for season 2. Scott?
Yeah, so that takes us to The Measure of a Man, which I'm lucky to have 2 data-centric ones to focus on. And this one is a standout. I've heard
yes.
Brent Spiner was on a podcast recently that was talking about, one of his standout episodes, and this is absolutely one of them. So Dr. Maddox of Starfleet's Daystrom Institute is one of the leading minds in cybernetics, and he spent his career trying to replicate Data. But the next step Maddox needs to take would end Data's life. We see one of the outstanding Trek legal dramas that asks if Data is just Starfleet property or a sentient life form to protect. This is another one where it's hard to dive into too much detail without getting into spoiler territory, but the prosecution and the defense that's chosen to represent Data one way or the other is very interesting. It absolutely calls back to some elements we saw in Data lore as far as how Data functions and things like that. But one of the standout moments in this episode for me is the conversation between I believe it's Guinan and Picard.
Correct.
That talks about the implications of doing so, and we're going to see that come back in Picard season 1. That makes me kind of look at season 1 with kind of a different lens. But it introduces another great relationship actually between Data and Maddox, which at first you see Maddox as this, clearly this is the bad guy, so to speak. But there's a twist in their relationship and a continuing evolution we'll see through the series that I think absolutely bears mentioning Dr. Maddox and his implications, but also just the acting, the structure, the legal debate of this is amazing.
It is. I mean, this is a courtroom drama, and it is a really good one. You get to see, you feel for Data throughout this episode, as you should, because, is he a sentient being? We don't know, but he needs to be treated like one, right? Maybe. It's that, that discussion that they have. But one of the scenes in this that I absolutely, by the way, the scene between Guy and Picard was not originally in the script. Paramount had to have them add something because apparently she was going to be there committed to that week, so they added that scene for that.
I'm glad they did.
Oh yeah, me too. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Yes.
But the one thing that I love it, and I don't think it's going to give away too much, but just how broken Commander Riker was, how torn he was, and what he had to do in this episode.
Oh
Yeah.
When his line when he says Pinocchio is broken, its strings have been cut, and you know what happened right before he said that line was just so powerful. As soon as he said that and went and sat down, I was like, damn, you could just chills, man, when that happened.
Yeah. I'm sure that had to hit Jonathan Frakes and everybody on set pretty hard.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
So much goodness. So many great performances in this. Even Patrick Stewart, incredible performance. With him, defending. It's just, my goodness. It just, watching this episode again for the first time in a long time, I forgot how powerful it was. And when you get to that, I mean, some of the things that you wouldn't think would be going through Data's, processors and stuff like that. Well, let's say what it is, brain. But it's just, man, just a lot of stuff dived into this episode that you just really makes you think.
Yeah, it's a big evolution in Data overall. So the character itself, how people regard Data, which is an interesting parallel to Pulaski's character and a lot of their interactions. But also Brent Spiner's performance as Data. You can definitely see an evolution here because this is a life or death situation, and his application of stoicism and curiosity in this character, I think, is one of the defining characteristics of Data. We're going to see that come back in another episode, The Most Toys, where, life and death situation and how that's faced and processed is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. This is probably definitely my favorite episode of the season. It's great because Brent Spiner's performance is just phenomenal. Jonathan Frakes' performance, Whoopi Goldberg's. We finally see how useful her character can be with this series. Plus, for anyone who likes this episode, this is one of the very few episodes of the series where there's an extended version of it. The Blu-rays have a much longer version of this episode. It's almost 15 minutes longer, and it's definitely worth watching or trying to find because it adds a lot of great scenes that we didn't even see in the original airing.
And this is the first episode to feature a poker game, which we know will reoccur quite a bit through this series.
Yes, to great effect.
About that.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on with our sixth pick, Contagion. The Enterprise receives a distress signal from the USS Yamato, a sister ship, who is near the Romulan neutral zone. Upon their arrival, to their horror, the Yamato explodes, followed by the appearance of the Romulans. Picard demands an explanation, but upon further investigation, it is discovered that an ancient civilization known as Iconia, of which the Yamato had gone to look for in the neutral zone, have ancient technology that he believes the Romulans are seeking to use against the Federation. They quickly discover that what happened to the Yamato before it exploded is now happening to the Enterprise, damaging the ship and Data. The crew race to answer not only to save their lives, but also to stop the Romulans. This is one of those episodes, and I don't think we've talked about this yet. Star Trek is the master of that opening sequence before they go into the title credits. Star Trek is the master of that. And again, they prove here on how good they're at it. I mean, the crew of the Enterprise, it goes from bad to worse here. They arrive to the sister ship, they talk to them, and then boom, and then all of a sudden the Romulans show up. Wow, okay, great. We've gone from bad to worse in this situation, and then we move right into the credits. Star Trek just is great at that. This episode is the first time Picard orders tea, Earl Grey hot, which was not successful, of course, in this episode. But again, we're going to talk about season 2, where a lot of firsts are starting to happen that we're going to start seeing throughout this series. This is just another episode that does that for us. It is also the first time Riker gives his iconic line, "Fate protects fools, little children, and ships named Enterprise."
This is a good episode. I enjoy. There's a lot of original ideas here, and I like the idea of the Iconians and their way of transporting. It's a pity we never went back to that too and got to learn any more, because it's kind of ended with that civilization at the end, and we get a great look at the Romulans. We hardly got anything during the season finale last year.
Right.
Their Romulan warbird, that's a beautiful model, an incredible design. I like the episode. I think there's a lot of original ideas.
Yeah. You can tell the writers, I mean, even though the strike was going on and there was a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes and stuff like that, but you can tell that they're really starting to explore Star Trek in ways that first season kind of did in a way, but not as much as they are doing in season 2. And as obviously we're going to see later on in each season as we grow.
Yeah.
They just get bigger and bigger and better and better. So yeah, I think this episode was really, really well done. And we get to see more of our characters explored. I mean, Picard, we learned he loves archaeology, right? This is the first time we see that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this season we get farther away from trying to copy the style of the original series and more about developing the Next Generation's own style. We see that a lot through season 2, and at this point we've pretty much shucked all of the original series ideas away and starting our own thing now.
All right, well, let's go on to our 7th pick.
And this is probably going to be the most controversial.
Uh-oh.
But I like it, okay? The Royale, written by Tracy Torme and directed by Cliff Boyle. Riker, Data, and Worf beam down to a planet to investigate a mysterious structure. Upon entering, they find themselves within what looks to be a 20th century casino and hotel. Wrapped up in the almost cliche-like events, cut off from contact with the Enterprise, and no way to get back out. As I said, I like this episode. It's fun. I think it's a fun episode. It's if you don't think too much into it. This is one of the episodes that, as I mentioned before, that was written by Tracy Torme, that was heavily rewritten against his wishes. And this is what forced him to make the decision to quit the show, which is a pity because he's a great writer. He went on to create another series that I absolutely loved later on called Sliders with Jerry O'Connell. He's a great writer. His original idea for the script was that the astronaut was stuck in this surreal nightmare fantasy world, and then when the crew comes and beams down, they get stuck in his own mind and his own nightmare. Because he left, he ended up using a pseudonym to credit himself because he didn't want his name on this. He felt it was rewritten so much that he didn't want to be involved in it, and as it comes, the rest of the series. When the original airing, I remember I loved this when it first aired, but something I just recently learned, all the episodes of The Next Generation were recently remastered into high definition about 10 years ago. And in the original airing, the patch on the astronaut's uniform was the 1972 Apollo 17 patch. And it had the Apollo name removed, but the name of the original astronauts were still there. But when they went and remastered this and reassembled it back in 2012, they took CGI and they changed those patches and put the correct spaceship and the correct names. And it has a little catchphrase that says "First beyond the solar system." I never noticed that until I was doing research on this episode. It's great that they were able to go back and remaster. And if you do watch them on streaming now, you are seeing the remastered versions of the episodes.
Right. Yeah, this was a very simple script. I don't want to call it simple, but I mean, the sets were very simple, let's be honest.
Oh, they were.
Clearly a cheap episode, tried to save some money, to contain it in one area. But it worked, It works. I agree, Wayne, there's probably a lot of people who are like, you're picking the Royale, what? But no, it is. I had a lot of fun with this. If you really think about it, you're supposedly stuck in this nightmare with this astronaut. I find that concept really cool. And that's Star Trek for you, right?
Yeah. And this one, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and the other thing that I really wanted to point out is Sam Anderson as the assistant manager of the hotel. I will always remember him as Mr. Gorpley from Perfect Strangers.
Oh, yes.
Wow. Yeah. Good pull. Yeah. No, and, while we're on the subject, I'll bring up Noble Willingham as Texas.
Yes.
Another one of the, Dave, you and I are going to talk about him and Norma Ray. And I'm always going to picture him as, his role in City Slickers, his role in Good Morning Vietnam. There's a lot of personality there, and the way that they use these characters, it's almost like it feels like a holodeck episode kind of turned on itself.
Yeah,
right. Like you're trapped in it and you can't do it unless you play it out. But it's a horrible novel. It's it was a dark and stormy night, like as bad as you can get. But it's played so well, and as soon as as soon as they figure out what's going on, they lean into it so much, and I love the performances there.
Yeah, they look like they're having a lot of fun. Just stepping out from the normal technobabble and serious storylines, just having fun in this pretty cheesy casino set. And yeah, I love it. I love it. Love it or hate it. You got to admit it. It's fun.
Come on,
Yeah.
you can tell Brent Spiner as Data was having fun of
Oh, yeah.
gambling with the dice
Yeah.
and the cards and stuff like that. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The data snap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was a fun episode. Absolutely. Before we continue on with our next episode, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We are going to continue with our 8th pick. Scott?
Yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches here because this is one of the best of season 2.
Yes.
If not one of the best
Yeah.
in the series, which
Yep.
I actually didn't discover until I had seen season 3.
Mhm.
But this one is called Q Who. So Q is back to pester the crew with a new proposition. Let me join your crew because you can't face this universe without me. When they reject his offer, he seeks to prove his argument in a dangerous way, flinging them 7,000 light years away, which is roughly 2 years from home at best speed, to face the Borg for the first time. Will they accept his help or fight one of the most dangerous species in the Trek universe? Now, there's a subtle spoiler there in mentioning that the Borg appears, but it's very important to mention that because as you're thinking about, which episodes to watch, this introduction is exceptionally important. And it's one of those Q episodes that doesn't necessarily, it's not him being kind of a jokester or anything else like that. He's absolutely serious. I need to join you. You're advancing way faster than you should.
Yeah. This episode is so vital and so important of what is to come in Star Trek: The Next Generation. And this is, I'm not going to say too much of what's coming up later for this villain, or the villains, if you want to say. But this sets up some storyline that's coming along, but this is the main villain that the Next Generation crew is going to be fighting for a very long time.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, is the best and creepiest villain that anybody has had in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting anything down through the original Star Trek or Deep Space Nine Voyager or anything like that, but come on. Let's be honest here. The Borg is frightening. They are hard to fight. And in this episode of Q Who, watching it again, I had goosebumps. I don't know if it's because I knew what was coming with this villain, but you could feel it in the air. Am I right? Do you guys
You're
get
right.
that? Like when they're discovering the Borg for the first time, you can just feel it in the air of this crew is in a position they should not be in right now. They should have not met the Borg, and Guinan even says that. You guys, you shouldn't have been here. You shouldn't have met them, and that leads up to some of the great scenes between Guinan and Q that we see in this episode that are just phenomenal. Acting between John DeLancey and Whoopi Goldberg. So Wayne, you mentioned earlier on how good Whoopi was in Guinan, but she does it again here.
Yeah.
She proves. Scott, I think it was you who said you love Guinan. This is your favorite character in Star Trek. You can see it here on her bringing her talent to this role as Guinan, and she senses it. You see that in the scene towards the beginning. She senses something's wrong, something's going on, and just so much build up in this episode. I was jealous when I saw you got this. I'm like, God dang it, Scott! I wanted Q Who.
That's what I mean.
But it gives us all a chance to talk about it, and I don't want to hog the microphone. So, guys, speak.
You said it right there. This is a build-up, and that is what this entire episode is. Q is giving the Enterprise a taste of what's to come, and that is exactly what the producers are giving us as viewers. They're giving us a taste of what's to come. We never knew at the time, but now in hindsight, looking back, you can just feel it in the atmosphere. You knowing that here we are seeing the beginning of the rest of the Next Generation history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a great standoff between Q and Guinan. They kind of trade, Jean Grey Magneto hand gestures, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She keeps Q at bay. She presents Q with somebody who's a foil, if not a threat, and which is fascinating. Mm-hmm. And the tension and the buildup from our core mission is to explore the universe, seek out new life. new civilizations. Well, here's one right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
But an expert who has seen this species wipe out or scatter her species across the universe
Yeah.
is saying, if I were you, I'd start going back now.
Yeah.
Don't be curious. Don't study. But they can't help it. So it's kind of the danger of doing so, proving Q's point to a certain degree. But absolutely the quiet and the slow buildup of this juggernaut of a species.
Yep.
They don't really say much. They disregard them, and they're relentless. Like as soon as they start chasing the Enterprise, there's no stopping. There's no slowing down.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was a little interesting is that I know there was we've already talked about season 1, so I guess I can do spoilers. There was a certain episode from I think it was Conspiracy from season 1 that was supposed to set up kind of that slug parasite race was somehow related to the Borg. Like they were sending a signal out to take the Borg, get the Borg back into the quadrant. There's almost a throwaway line from Data where he says, we're seeing this planet where roads are still intact, but the entire cities have been kind of scooped off of the face of the planet, similar to what we saw near the neutral zone. Now,
that was in the season finale, Neutral Zone, yes.
So does that mean that the Borg were in the neutral zone, or is there some way that that's been kind of retconned out?
No, that's an actual direct connection to this episode. The original, it still was part of the original plans at the time. They hadn't written Q Who yet, but it fits. It fits right in. They went with it, and because we see in this episode, and then we also see later in next season in Best of Both Worlds the connection between them.
Wasn't the original plan the Ferengi were supposed to be the main villain for the Star Trek Next Generation crew? But they became too comical.
Yeah,
and they're like, we can't do this, and that's where they leaned in to started creating the Borg.
Yeah, and this was also supposed to be a 2-part episode. Their episode called Time Squared, which I think aired a couple seasons before. This was actually supposed to be the first part, and then during the rewriting stage, they decided to split the 2 episodes and not connect them.
Yeah, this episode won 2 Emmy Awards, outstanding sound mixing and outstanding sound editing, which it well deserved. And what I find interesting, director Rob Bowman voices the Borg.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. No. Phenomenal episode, listeners out there. I hope this is at the top of your list for one, because you can tell the love the 3 of us have for this episode. Anybody
you can't skip it.
You cannot skip this one. It is super important of what's coming up in the next season and then beyond that. Believe me, trust me. Even the motion pictures, everything,
all the way up to last year, the most recent Star Trek. You got to see this one.
Yep, absolutely, super important. All right, well, we're going to move on to the 9th pick, the Emissary. The Enterprise is sent to certain coordinates with unknown orders from Starfleet. While en route, an admiral is in contact advising Picard and crew that they will be meeting an emissary who will instruct them on what is needed. Upon arriving, they beam aboard a probe to discover a half-human, half-Klingon known as Kalar, of which Worf is not pleased to see. It is discovered that a Klingon battlecruiser whose crew was frozen in time from when they were at war with the Federation is coming back online. It is up to Worf and the crew of the Enterprise to come to a solution to stop this battlecruiser and possibly starting a new war. This episode really gets to explore, Michael Dorn and his performance, especially, his history with Kalar. I love the scenes between those two, their backstory and stuff like that. It is just, Michael Dorn as Worf is just phenomenal, and you're getting to see him explore more.
And she's a fun character. Here we got Susie Plankton playing Kalar. It's interesting to see a half human, half Klingon, especially one that has pretty much denounced the Klingon ways. She more embraces her human side, which is something we've never seen before. Worf, being raised by humans, has pretty much kind of embraced his Klingon side. So here we get the exact opposite. Yet opposites attract. So they make a great couple. I like her, and I like the episode.
Yeah. We get Poker again, by the way. I want to point that out.
Yep. And a great use of the holodeck.
Yes.
Yes.
for exercise, and I think it's used in a great way. I love the effects of the opponents that are in Worf's calisthenics program,
Hmm.
and they eventually go to level 2.
Right.
Um, I say as a happily married man, I've had a crush on Kalar since this episode. Just
Yeah.
so fantastic. Such um a breakthrough performance, aside from being gorgeous.
Hmm.
Um, her performance, like you said, Wayne, is kind of a lens for the Klingon culture. She's a Klingon ambassador, so clearly she's respected and revered by Klingons as somebody that they listen to and, pay attention when Kalar has something to say. We'll see
Yep.
that come up in a future season. It's almost like she has kind of that Han Solo charisma.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
She's aware
Absolutely.
of these happening,
Good way to
but
put
she's
it.
like, I mean, come on. Like, there's this thing we got to do. Really? Do we have to do that? Because they've been doing that for centuries, and I don't believe in it. But
Yeah.
whatever. Not making fun of it, not scoffing at it, but just saying, I'm not going to let my life be ruled by these traditions that you want to go through.
Hmm.
Which is a great, parallel to Worf's journey with this, right? Um, things that are things that are happening to him, things that are going to happen to him,
Hmm.
and how he kind of processes that in being a Klingon who is raised by humans. There's so much that's just absolutely fascinating about her character, and I love what it does for Worf's character to advance his growth, but also kind of giving us another way of looking at the Klingon culture, which we haven't seen much aside from what we talked about before, A Matter of Honor.
Yeah. And not to give away too many spoilers, so I got to be careful on what I say here. But the problem solving they have towards the end that Worf comes up with, I thought was really
Yes.
cool.
Yes. You see some ice in the veins when there's some tense moments. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to our 10th and final pick. Scott, what do we got?
this one's a little tough because there's one performance by one actor who does a great job, but it's so grating. The personality of this character. It's hard to say like, yeah, watch this one because you're gonna be like, ooh, don't like it. This is called peak performance. So the best of our crew is put to the test in more ways than one. What begins as a war game that splits the crew in two and across two ships quickly becomes a bigger threat when the Ferengi think the game is real. As a side narrative, the orchestrator of this war game puts Data's skills to the test in one of the toughest games in the galaxy. There's a slight spoiler there. Granted, but
You can't get around it though.
it's
So-
the tension of what this introduces. There's a great use. I'll go ahead and name, Roy Brocksmith.
Oh, yes.
Plays the games master.
He's fantastic.
And his performance, it's one of those characters where it's like you do such a great job of being unlikable. It's like, respect the actor, hate the character.
When he first came on the bridge, he's like, "Look at this Weasley of a guy,
Oh,
man!"
so much, so much. And there's already been a little bit of the, I feel like one of the things that's hard with Dr. Pulaski is kind of the side-eyed judgment stance that she seems to have,
Mhm.
right? That there's not always the best chemistry, the best level of respect with, data kind of things. So when the games master comes on, there's a similar, like, always kind of judging, always kind of looking down at the characters, and it's bristling. But there's some great, I love the war game aspect of it, and how you see, it's like a scrimmage, right? And they're picking their teams and who gets who. Riker certainly stacks the deck.
He does.
But
and cheats on my
Great
bad,
effect.
but that's
a little bit, yeah. Yep. There's some Wesley cleverness in there that I'm like, is there a flag on that one? I don't know. We'll just let it go. But yeah, and then it's another place where we see an exploration of Data's development, right?
Mhm.
As a character. Again,
Yep.
that stoicism where he should have, an emotional response. Nope, totally doesn't, and to great effect.
Yeah, this is another episode. This is like the Royale. You love it, you hate it, but it's a fun episode. It's got some great elements. I like it. I liked it ever since its
Yeah.
first airing. I think Data, yeah, Brent Spiner's fantastic. Jonathan Frakes are all great, fantastic. Plus, we get to see the Ferengi again, and they've been slightly redesigned, not quite to where we'll see them in the future, but they're working on it. It's neat to see them again.
Yeah. What another thing I love about this episode, we've been talking a lot this episode about growth for these characters. You really see the respect that you get between Picard and Riker in this episode.
Yes.
When Cerna is, putting down Riker, Picard's like, stop. Basically puts him in his place right then and there. About, you listen here about Riker. The respect he showed for him right then and there just shows how much their characters have already developed, but where they're going and the respect they are going to have for one another. But what I also like is the fact that how much fun Jonathan Frakes was having, or I should say Riker was having, on that broken down ship that they had to repair to get it going, including Geordi. I mean, you could just see the smiles on their face of like, we get to do this, we may get our butts kicked, but who cares? I loved it.
Yep.
Fantastic episode. But all right, so gentlemen, we have talked about our top 10 episodes of season 2. So let's go back and do a little bit what we did last season, where we talked about our best moment for Riker. This time, we're going to talk about our best moment or best episode, whatever you want to do, for Data this season. Wayne, what do you have?
Well, it's going right back to what we just talked about in peak performance. I love it when Data's beaten by Kulrami in the game of Stratagema. The scene where Picard basically has to tell him, suck it up and get back to work. I love that. Data is so devastated. Well, that's not really good because that's emotional, but he's confused that how can he lose? He's a computer. He can't lose. And it almost forces him to shut down. Picard's like, you can't just let things like this, let defeats get to you. You have to get back up. Yep. And you have to get right back into it and try again. And it's a great lesson that learned from Data, and a great moment between him and Picard, and that's my choice.
Good choice. Scott, what about you?
The game is afoot. Every part of his performance as Sherlock Holmes, from the Data perspective, from Brent Spiner's perspective, the breadth that we get from both is one of my favorite things. I love him getting into character, the use of different voice inflections and things like that. That stands out to me.
For me, it's the Schizoid Man. Brent Spiner has proved us already on how good he does playing his brother Lore. And just that on and off switch that we talked about last episode, where he's able to just turn on, being Data, and he completely turning that switch and becoming Lore. Here you see him do the same thing, but completely somebody else. We get to see the character of Dr. Graves played, again, by William Morgan Shepard, but you get to see Data become that actor. The performance that he gave us, Brent Spiner just goes on with it, and you feel like you're watching Dr. Graves, you're not watching Data. And every scene, I don't have a particular scene because every one of them in that episode was so good from him that I can't pick just one. So I'm saying that whole episode, that is my Data episode for this season, for sure.
Oh, definitely good choice, Jim.
Yep. All right, so we are going to talk about next our least favorite episode. Now, listeners out there, you may like these episodes that we choose, but we think otherwise. So, Scott, what about you? What is your least favorite episode of season 2?
I know we tossed around a few things. There's going to be a bit of debate behind the scenes. The one that sticks out to me, and I think there's another that's like, throw it away. You don't watch this episode. Don't waste your time. But my vote is for Up the Long Ladder. Okay. So I feel like, we talked last time about, an episode that misrepresents cultures in the wrong way. At least in my opinion. I know that Cole Meany, the actor who plays Transporter Chief Miles O'Brien, one of my favorite characters in this and other series, wasn't happy with the depiction of Irish culture. Didn't have a chance to change the script. He would later be able to do so in a Deep Space Nine episode, If Wishes Were Horses, where he was able to kind of steer away from some of those cliches. But it was I found it uncomfortable to watch. aspects of that episode, and it just seemed like it felt like a throwaway to me. But
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, it's not my choice for least favorite, but it's one of those episodes you can skip. There's really no redeeming factor in this episode. It's not worth watching.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Scott. Good choice. Wayne, I think you and I might agree on this one, but we'll see. Wayne, what's yours?
Unfortunately, it's the season finale.
Yep.
You expect the season to end on a strong point. This season did not. Shades of Grey.
Yep.
They ran into a lot of problems this season. They overspent on two of the big episodes, Elementary Dear Data and Q Who, and they had no money left for a finale, so we got this. And it's the clip show. I mean, it's either you just say, tell any Star Trek fan, the clip show. They know exactly which one you're talking about. It works for a lot of shows. Cheers did it, Friends did it, Golden Girls. Boy, they were really well. But those are sitcoms. This is Next Generation. We don't need a clip show, and especially not this early in the series. I mean, what's there to clip? There's very little. You're basically just showing scenes that you watched like less than a year ago.
And for a finale, come on now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. No, I completely agree with you, Wayne. I did not like this episode at all. And when it ended, I'm like, wait, what? That's it? That's all we get for season 2?
I mean, for a show that was trying to still find its place with the fans, this was not a good way to end the season.
No, I mean, what is it? Riker gets struck by what? Thorn.
Yeah.
And he gets infected by it, and he has to go into the medical bay, and Dr. Pulaski has to try and save him. But like the only guest star in this was what? Cole Meany, wasn't it?
I
was
think
it
so,
Chief O'Brien the only
Yeah.
one that was in this, except for the clip stuff, obviously? Yeah. But it's like, no, this one didn't work at all. The only good thing, and this is a spoiler, but I'm going to let it happen. The only good thing from this episode is it's Pulaski's last.
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest. I didn't even watch this one. Whereas the other episodes, I just kind of brushed up. As soon as I saw it was a clip episode, like you mentioned, sitcoms that do it, like Friends. It's such a cheat. And you feel like, really? So I have to sit here for 30 minutes and there's only like 5 minutes of original material? Like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It also feels like, for as much as this series is advancing, to take so many steps back, just by nature of looking back at clips, it seems like a very, very odd choice.
It was a big mistake. They realized it was a big mistake. They had no other choice but to do this, and it's a mistake that they never made again in the show. Thank God.
Yeah. Don't worry though. The next finale we get is the best finale of all Star Trek, in my opinion, and we will talk about that in the 3rd episode for sure.
Yep.
All right, listeners, want to thank everybody for tuning in with us for our top 10 picks. We always appreciate you listening. Wayne, Scott, thank you so much for joining me on the bridge, as always.
Oh, thank you. It's always great to be here.
Absolutely. Hailing frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and questions on social.
Yeah, and let us know what you think and share your favorites that we didn't mention. You might get a mention in a future show.
Email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. Find us online at afilmbypodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send some Latinum our way, Patreon. See you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Stun.